down. Okay, she said, you know, they're really good. People really like them, and I want to watch them because I'm always talking to them about, hey, why don't you watch the, you know, they still don't want to watch Goonies. They've watched them all now. Goonies are scary. Sloth are scary. The Fratellis are scary. The music is scary for my daughters at some point. And our philosophy was, my personal philosophy was, let them watch whatever they want to watch, and then sit with them and work through with them what they might, you know, what they're taking away from it. Make sure that morally, in terms of their social conscience, you know, that they were kind of absorbing whatever crap they wanted to watch properly. I don't want to say, no, you can't watch that, because in my experience, when you say, no, you can't watch something, it ends up being the first thing you want to watch. And I also think in our culture, people, I mean, this is y'all are a perfect example. This environment of the convention is a perfect example of how much movies and television and comic books and media mean to us, and literature too. But I feel like if they're exposed to, there are just certain ideas that they get used to. I mean, with Lord of the Rings, it's good and evil, and certain, yeah, there you go. Good, over here. Not sure about over here yet. And there. So anyway, so I was able to tell her, I think on the 20th or 21st of December, that Elizabeth, I'm gonna actually do, I just signed on to do a Christmas thing for Hallmark. She ran up and hugged me so tightly, like, see, I told you to do something and you did it, you know? And it was pretty great. So, and I play an elf. I think it's my second elf. The first elf I played was Frick, or Frack. Frick. I think that's Frick. Frack. Oh, was that Frack? I was Frack. I was either Frick or Frack. Ethan Embry was either Frack or Frick. In The Witches of Oz, with Billy Boyd, actually. Billy Boyd. Pippin. So, who has his own rock group now. Rock group? His band. I don't want to call them a rock group. They're what kind of music are they? Scottish alternative? What would you call it? They're a Scottish band. I don't know if the Scottish alternative is an actual genre. I wasn't saying that. But maybe it is. Billy's starting it. But anyhow, so he does this great movie that sort of picks up with Dorothy as an adult, and she has written her story, and she's going to go to the big city to sell it, and then the witch is is her like publisher or something, and Billy, she befriends Billy, and I guess he's sort of the scarecrow. I guess he kind of is playing Scarecrow. Anyway, they finished the movie, and as they were doing their post-production, they had to insert the elves. Elves. You worry about that. It's a whole thing, right? Elves. So, but actually, that's what Lord of the Rings. So, okay, so he had carried around a little dummy that was meant to be the elf, and they were going to put it in post-production. So I got a call saying, how would you like to be carried around by Billy Boyd for a few scenes in a movie? And I said, does Billy know? And they said, no, we haven't talked to him yet. I was like, yes, I definitely want. So he was, the character was a classic with the, you know, what do you call it? Like the court jester hat and the feet with the curls and the silk, whatever, and just your sort of classic elf look, but kind of fat and slovenly and curses a lot and really just altogether, you know, naughty, bad elf. Not naughty, just kind of disgusting. He's a disgusting elf, burping and telling off-color jokes, and so that was fun. Got to do that. But this elf in the Hallmark movie is that you can't tell, if he was walking down the street, you wouldn't be able to tell at all that he's an elf. He's wearing sort of a Brooks Brothers suit, and you know, very put together. And he's Santa's executive elf, chief executive elf, head elf, chief. Anyhow, executive assistant. He's his executive assistant. So you know, fetching his Santa chinos or whatever. But and anyhow, so that was fun. And then what else? There's another thing that I'm going to go do in Alabama in May. Sort of a family comedy, romantic comedy. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about that yet, so pretend I didn't say that. And like that. I mean, that's sort of where I am. I'm kind of waiting. It feels like in my life I've been blessed to have, you know, like Goonies I was 12, and then Rudy I was 21, and then Lord of the Rings I was 30, I guess. So like every 10-ish years, there's something where I get to really connect. And in between, I found myself doing good journeyman, working class actor stuff. And playing a Ninja Turtle. But so, I think it's separate, isn't it? Somehow. So that's all. I mean, I can talk about anything, but if people want to ask questions, I always find that people enjoy the vibe when we're riffing with the audience. Or have we given any more thought to the Harlem thing? Do we want to do that? You don't have to participate.
Yes, everyone
if you do participate, don't kick the audience.
It only looks
cool.
good if I'm
Respectful of your neighbor. So first you do nothing.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
You're not doing nothing.
Give me and then we're all gonna
Are you ready?
yeah.
Go.
It's not good enough. Oh my god.
Yeah, let's do it. Somebody pull up the song in that corner and we'll do it again. I don't know what you guys are doing. It's going to work great though. It's going to work great. The first bit is fantastic. So who's going to raise your hand if you're pulling it up? Who's pulling it up? You got it? Okay. All right. So questions. Who wants to know what about what? Anybody? Yes.
Are you aware that your Lego counterpart is the most useful character in the game? And how do you feel about that?
Am I aware that my Lego counterpart is the most useful character in the game, and how do I feel about that? Well, it seems like Sam's always doing the heavy lifting. Yes.
Any news on a Rudy sequel?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, there's news. There won't be one. I'm sorry. I mean, if there was going to be a sequel to Rudy, it would be the story of how he got his movie made, because that's way harder than having gotten into Notre Dame and playing in a series of downs. So no. Goonies, there will be a sequel though. Someday. Yeah.
Was the biggest movie the one that had the most impact on your career? Like, was it Lord of the Rings? Or was it Goonies? Was it Rudy? Which was the one that really...
Well, let's think through that, the impact on my career. I mean, financially, in terms of my... No, honestly. I mean, how do you gauge, anyway, in terms of the work, I mean, in and of itself, the work, a particular movie, a play, a night, a performance of a particular night of a run of a play. Like where, when you think about a career, like what are we evaluating? Are you evaluating how people get to experience your work over time? Like Ian McKellen, I remember he was doing Magneto and like on the second one, I guess, and I was in Vancouver doing something, we went out for a lunch, and he took me to see Dame Edna, actually. She's Canadian, right? Dame Edna? No, she's not? Okay. Oh, little puppets! Wait, if you've got it, just come right up. Do you have it? Okay. Wait, you ready to start? And Dan's facing me too while you're doing it.
Okay.
Oh my god.
That's what I thought it was.
not on Twitter. All right. Wow, really? Muy interessant. All right, well, check out the Facebook page, too. There's, oh no, wait, what is it?
Facebook.
I do, I just never look at it. I have family members who come up, they're like, dude, I friended you like 15 times. I'm like, Dad, I don't look at my Facebook. So anyhow, career, I would say that the three big ones I'm known for, Goonies, Rudy, and Lord of the Rings, are the ones that set my career trajectory for those time periods. You know, I've been lucky to have a body of work now. I mean, I think I've done a lot of stuff. And I think, I always say if I walked outside and got hit by a bus, they would show, probably anywhere in the world, they would show a clip of Samwise. Probably in America, they show a clip of Rudy. So in terms of my own development as an actor, I actually wrote a book about this. I wrote it called There and Back Again, An Actor's Tale.
I've read it.
Years ago, and I kind of chart the different kinds of things moments that happen to me, like having when Rudy gets to Notre Dame, that scene where he breaks down crying. I had done crying in several different movies, but there's something about that particular one that really unlocked an emotional thing for me, and it served me well as Sam. I mean, Sam's crying, you know, puppets in the trilogy are always bursting into tears left, right, and center. So, but Sam always, in the movie, just seems to be crying all the time, and so that, I had a facility with that, and I'm sure it was because of having that breakthrough on Rudy, and then watching it progress, you know, in different movies that I was in over time. So, you would have to say that Lord of the Rings is the most impactful thing of my career. You just have to. I mean, it's just the most, you know, the gravity of the literary material, what happened in the moment in film history. I mean, really, this entire every movie poster you see on a bus or a stand or whatever, every movie poster you see, it owes a debt of gratitude to Lord of the Rings. I mean, they're all just like springing forth from what that movie, what Peter Jackson achieved, that movie and New Line, and the way the marketing folks designed all these posters and DVDs and things that we're signing. I mean, it opened up just a wormhole into this universe that's been most of the movies that are really successful over the last 10 years. So I would think that and the character is so beloved, and the journey of making the film, and the fact that if that's Sting, I've been eating too many of the blue pills. All right, so just behind you, yes, with the hat on. Yeah.
You have Lord of the Rings. How do you feel about Peter Jackson making
That's a good one. A good question. What do I think about Peter Jackson's A Hobbit? I think it's great. I think it's great. How can I think anything else? You know, a lot of those people that made the film I know and love, and just am so proud of them, and I know they, you know, I wonder, I haven't really been in contact with any of them really, a little bit with Billy, but so I don't know what their experience was, but it just looks like it was a pretty amazing commitment again, and I enjoyed the movie. They really made it a part of Middle Earth, the Lord of the Rings Middle Earth movies that we made, and which is different than what I expected, because, well, I didn't know what to expect really, but you know, I love the book so much. The first time I ever read The Hobbit was in New Zealand, working, like in the first couple of weeks of working on Lord of the Rings. And I just loved its whimsy and its, the fantasy and the childlike qualities and just the, you know, the children's story nature of it. And so in the movies, when the dwarves are throwing the plates back and forth, and I mean, that was some of my favorite stuff. And I couldn't wait to see how they did the cave trolls, because in Lord of the Rings, they have the one cave troll sort of squatting with his finger like this, and I knew they'd have to get it back into that position for it to match. So I couldn't wait. I was watching that scene, just looking at that troll. Everything else was happening. I'm just looking at that troll waiting for him to freeze. And then he froze in that position. I'm like, ha ha! I knew it. Go ahead. Yeah. Well, I didn't feel threatened by the Viggo Mortensen Billy Boyd kiss, because I kissed Billy Boyd plenty of times on my own. And Strider's a bit too scruffy. I'm more of a Sam type. Yeah. I didn't realize that that they were having so much fun with that idea until much later. And Vigo was so intense for so much of the movie. To see him just burst into that kind of giddiness was pretty great. It was pretty great. Yes. Yeah.
What's it like doing the voice for a mutant turtle named after a Renaissance artist?
Well, when I first heard about the Ninja Turtles, when I was a much younger lad, I didn't like them very much. Well, no, it's not that I didn't like them, it's just that I think I was just too old for them. And when I heard that they named them all after Renaissance artists, Raphael and Michelangelo, Donatello, and don't tell me, and Leonardo, I got it. I said, don't tell me. I sort of thought, oh, well, that's cheap. And then the older I got, the more I realized that actually it was kind of a gateway for kids to be familiar with those names and to, when it came time for them to study, to, oh, I know those guys, they're turtles. It's really fun. Sam was so sweet and heartfelt and loyal and brave and everything. And Raphael's just a brawler. He's just a brawler, and I love that. I love that he's the kind of badass one. It's fun. Yeah. Frodo.
What's the biggest challenge you had to overcome in filming The Lord of the Rings?
The biggest challenge, I think maybe late in the movies, when it was really hard, when we didn't sleep a lot, we were always working, it felt like, and time off was just hanging out with everybody else doing the same stuff. So there was a kind of mental, it was a mental journey that was hard sometimes. Because in the movies you see it goes from one sweeping vista to a volcano to deep in the mines of Moria to all these things. Well, there were some times where we'd get to fly to the tops of mountains and do the movie, and then there was months at a time where you'd be working in an abandoned paint factory against a green screen. And as amazing as the story is and the characters are, you're only really getting to enjoy the work of saying the lines and feeling those feelings and, acting opposite your fellow cast members for very short periods of time. So it was, I had my wife and Allie was there. She was very young at the time, 2 when we left there, or when we went there. So I think it just was, I think I was just exhausted, and the idea of staying focused, and when, you develop a kind of gallows humor, I remember at one point somebody gave me Board of the Rings, and I read like 3 pages of it, and I thought it was funny, and then I put it down like I was holding a hot iron, because I was like, whoa. I have to walk in there and be that. I can't be satirizing it in my mind. I'm not that good. Some of the guys are good. They can just, make fun. We can make different kinds of fun of things, but that like refined, commercialized, truly objectified, satire. Whew, that was scary. So that it was hard to kind of keep mental focus over time. In the back. Yeah.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings for a long time was known as the unfilmable trilogy. Was there a feeling of the scope of what you were trying to achieve on the set, or was it kind of just another job to do?
So I have a question for you first.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as Scottish alternative music?
Yes, Dropkick Murphys.
So were you finished? I sort of got the premise. Did you finish?
Did Peter Jackson kind of just try to get that scope in you, or was he just trying to just go with it and absorb that stuff?
It's a great question. The unfilmable trilogy. I haven't met him yet, but I was very close to physically to Ralph Bakshi at the last show, and he did the Lord of the Rings animated version in the 70s, right? And there was some groundbreaking stuff in it, but it was also just crazy to try and put 3 books into an hour or 90-minute cartoon? It was just not right. And the Hobbits, I didn't like the Hobbits at all in Ralph Bakshi's version. They were stupid and I didn't like. I got to New Zealand and I hadn't seen it, and I watched it. But when the scripts arrived, well, after I got the part, a truck or a van pulled up, and this secure package arrived. They put it on the counter in the kitchen. It's big, like, that wasn't dramatic, right? That's it. And you opened it up, and it was the 3 screenplays. And they had on them a cover script with a false production company title on it. And there was a string around it, tied up. This was not what usually happened on movies. Usually, a guy throws up, there you go, there's your script, and you flip through it, and it's no big deal. Now, and you open it up, and my name with a serial number was watermarked on every page. And so, okay, I see your hand. Save your hand. Spencer, right? You Spencer? Tell me your name again. What's your name? Henry? Oh, you look like a little boy I met outside. Okay, you don't have to raise your hand. I'll call on you next, okay, Henry? Save your arm. So, you knew you were a part of something big just from the paper that was sent to you. And then you show up, and the first thing Peter did after, we went right to the studio from the airport, and he took the actors who had just arrived and took us to the Weta workshop, where all the special effects, practical effects makeup and armor and stuff was. And they walked us through, and they showed you just miles long of orc armor and urukai rubber skin and the faces. And then we went into the foundry where the actual swords were being forged, literally hammered out and forged. And by the time you finished that, and then when you just couldn't believe what you were seeing, you went into another room and they showed you the miniatures, which are bigger than this room. And they were working on this stuff for 9 months, a year, whatever. And every, this Minas Tirith, you could climb out, you could look at every single, like take a magnifying glass to any part of the miniature, and it looked photoreal. And then when you just can't believe, George Lucas never came up with anything like these miniatures. And I was a huge George Lucas Star Wars fan who grew up on the making of and seeing the miniatures that he made, and these were just like blow away. Then you walk in and they go, okay, we're going to show you some of the digital stuff. They give us their digital dog and pony show, they called it, and you start looking at how they've been writing code for the software to have, if you're going to film an army, a wide shot of an army, they were able to do in the past little kind of rudimentary figures that could kind of move back and forth like you'd see in a video game. And they could create that in the computer and show it. But now what they have done is they'd advanced it to such a state where each of the 20,000 characters on the screen had its own algorithmic brain where it could choose how to raise its sword, or depending on what weapon it had, and how to fight. So you watch these things and they're clashing, and no matter where your eye would go on the screen, there was the battle happening, a unique own signature battle. And then and then they show you another thing where they say, well, CG technology, before you could show kind of a forest from afar, but if you pushed in closer, it would kind of blur a little bit. The brush strokes, the CG brush strokes, or whatever, would kind of it would kind of bend out. And then you get closer and closer, and they're like, we wrote this new software to do leaves. And they show you all these different trees from all the different worlds, and all the different leaves on the different trees, and what they look like in a storm, or what they look like when they're in the fall foliage. And then you go home and you try and get some sleep. You can't believe what you just saw yesterday. And then you go to show up at the wardrobe place, and they've got these incredible designs for you, like something out of the 1920s or 1930s in Hollywood, with these incredible wardrobe designs. And then you do a fitting, and then you walk into another room and you see there's 100 people sewing and knitting and designing, and with leather, what do you call those? Leather making, and and every day was like that. And then you get in a car and you go, and you've got the late great Bob Anderson, the sword master, who taught Errol Flynn and Douglas Fairbanks how to sword fight, and choreographed the Darth Vader, Ben Kenobi fight sequence. And they're like, okay, you're gonna come every day for 90 minutes and you're gonna work with Bob for the next 6 weeks to get your sword training right. And then you go to another thing on the stage and they say, okay, there's all these portable offices and you're gonna go in that one for an hour a day, 5 days a week for the next 6 weeks. And you walk in there and it's 2 dialect coaches, one from the Royal Shakespearean Company and another one, this Irish linguist, something like that, language science person, Roshi party. And so we'd sit there and they had all the different species up on the walls. And then each species they played for us all the different sounds, the accents that they designed for them. And then you look at the hobbits and they go, okay, the hobbits are going to be, Samwise is going to be sort of a West Country. He's going to be a West Country hobbit. And then Elijah's going to be more of a received pronunciation English. And then Billy's going to have a Scotch. So they designed the regions within Middle Earth, within the Shire. So, then you 5 helicopters would show up and take you to the tops of these mountains, and then you'd show up and you'd go on a given day to 7 or 8 different stations around Wellington, buildings where you'd go in and they'd have, this incredible, Osgiliath ruins set up, or the Weathertop, or whatever. So, yeah, we had a pretty good idea. It was spectacular. But we never. What was the first movie or TV show that I starred in? Henry wants to know. You can't see. Can you stand up, Henry? Let everybody take a good look at you. You see Henry? Henry's hair is a little straighter than mine was then, but it was probably just about as long, but really curly. I was 7 years old, and it was called "Please Don't Hit Me, Mom." The battle cry of 7-year-olds all over the world. My mother is the world-famous, Academy Award-winning, multi-Emmy-winning, Golden Globe-winning legend, Patty Duke. She played Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker, which Henry, you probably haven't seen yet, but she's a little girl. Helen Keller is a real-life person who couldn't hear. She was deaf and she was blind, and because she was deaf and blind, she couldn't learn how to speak. And it's a story about how she and her teacher developed a language, an ability to communicate with each other. And she became a very special woman in the world, in world history, for women's history and for people with disadvantages and so forth. And my mom got to play her in a movie, and she was so good in it that they gave her an Oscar for it. So anyway, my mom, at a certain point, she was offered a, okay, I see you in the corner there. She was offered the part. ABC had these after-school specials, kind of disease of the week deals, where this one's teen pregnancy, and that one is this thing, and another one, and then child abuse was one of them. And my mom was offered the abusive mom, and she said she would do it if I could play the son. So she offered for me to do that, and I still had to audition for it. I had to show them that I knew how to do it. Okay, 5 minutes left. We'll take a few more questions. But anyway, that was the first thing I ever did, and the scenes where my mother was beating me up on screen were not uncomfortable at all.
Oh my god.
Encino Man's one of his favorite movies, so I've got a brother-in-law you can hang with. And did I get into any shenanigans with Pauly Shore? I think when I was doing Encino Man was a very serious time in my youth. I wanted to be an important actor at that point. And so I looked at Pauly at that stage as this, it was amazing to me how he had connected with the college audience, but the whole woo, Palm Spring, or what do you call Palm Beach, Girls Gone Spring Break, Girls Gone Wild thing. I was like, I didn't get. Now I've been married 20 years. I'm like, hey, have some fun. What are you gonna do? So we didn't hang out that much while we were doing it. Brendan Fraser and I sat in the dressing room and played video games the whole movie. But I think Holly was too serious a comedian to be wasting time doing video games. So if I could go back, I'd do that movie over again, and I'd have more fun the next time and get into shenanigans with them. All right, I haven't gone over to this side of the room, so in the far, yeah, with your hand up in the corner. That's you. Yes. No. Yes. You. Do you
Oh,
have red hair?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
red hair. Like,
Okay. Yeah, I'm the one that cried earlier.
you were the one that cried earlier.
Yeah, the
Oh, that was good. We had a moment.
Yeah, I'm still shaking.
I'm okay now. How are you?
I'm good. I forget my question. Oh my god. What was your favorite scene to shoot in Lord of the Rings?
Favorite scene in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember being pretty happy when I saw the footage from where we come out of after Gandalf has died. We're on top of the, is it Emon Head or whatever? No, when we're on top of the mountain and we're all sad that Gandalf's died, and I was crying. I was pretty happy about that scene. Yeah. Probably a teacher, or yeah, or like a jerk high school gym coach or something. Come on, you yeah. Maybe English or history teacher is what I would guess, or politician, but I don't know. Yeah, you.
First of all, I want to say you get Special Agent Oso up here in Lights of Stars. We're really excited when I said that to meet Oso.
It's good to see you were in the line too. I saw you earlier. Yeah.
I wanted to ask if you could tell us a little bit about your directing.
About my directing, a very passionate director and filmmaker. It seems like it's been like going to Mordor, trying to figure out how to get a full-length feature film made. We have one, Number of the Stars, is a book, famous, best-selling, Newbery Award-winning children's book about two Danish girls in the middle of the Second World War, and so we're just struggling to try and find a way to get that made. I love it. I love it. The older I get, the more in awe I am of what other filmmakers do. We just had the Academy Awards, which is always a good excuse for me to power through a bunch of movies that I haven't gotten to, and watching what they did. Amour, what that guy did with Amour. Oh my! It was a guy, right? You directed that? It might have been a lady. I don't know. But the performances of those two, that older couple, just incredible. So I don't know what to say except that we're trying to get. That's my focus. To the extent that I'm not focused on acting, that's what I'm trying to do to get that movie made. And I do little short films here and there, and I did a Harlem thing with you guys, so. Yeah. 51st Dates, sure. Doug, nobody likes Doug from 51st Dates? Adam. That character came from Adam Sandler. That's what I think he wanted to do that part more than he wanted to do Henry. The director, Pete, said to me, he said, but maybe we'll try it with a lisp. My first thought was, oh, God, I don't know what a lisp. But then I thought, well, I'll try it with lisp. And so I did it with a lisp. And it was really fun. And then I showed up for the wardrobe fitting, and there were these outrageous mesh clothes with tight pants, and I thought, okay, now I see what they want to do, and I kind of didn't like that. So I put on that lisp, I put on the clothes, and I showed up, and then Adam would just say certain things. He'd say, well, say it like this. And he was that guy. So I basically just followed what they told me to do, and I started to have fun with it halfway through and be able to do things, but basically that character is Adam and Pete. Yeah, right in the back there with us. Okay, that was generous. Fell to my knees and wept.
Aww.
Because I knew, going back to the career question, that it would make a difference in I'd always, at that point in my life, I was really struggling to figure out where I fit in the world of movies and television. Because my dad also, John Astin, co-managed from the Addams Family, was up here a year or two ago. I just didn't know that I had a place. And from the second they said that I got that part, I knew I always had a place. Last question in the red.
Okay, I have a question about Harrison Bergeron.
Oh, I'm so glad, yeah.
shoot that talk show scene with the gun and?
You know, so Harrison Bergeron is a short story by Kurt Vonnegut that was included in the Welcome to the Monkey House series of short stories. Woo! And filmed it here in Toronto, actually, and in the winter, January. Then people say, oh, it's cold. You're going to go running today. It's cold in Toronto. I'm like, this is awesome today. And it's sort of a comment on communism, really. It's about how everybody should be equal. So if you've got exceptional people, a ballet, you know, a ballerina, or whoever it is, that they should in some way be given, you know, a limit. You know, put a sandbag on the ballerinas so she can't jump too high. And it was sort of the absurdity of thinking that everyone was equal is what he was sort of going for. And my character was Harrison Bergeron. The short story is so beautiful. The movie has almost nothing to do with it. I mean, it's very, very different. And Vonnegut was so generous about saying he liked it and stuff. And you know, he was very proud of his work, and he knew that his story was his story, and the movie was the movie, and it was different. But my character Harrison was exceptionally gifted, brain, good thinker, and so they put these little things on them, electrodes, to try and slow their thinking down to make them equal with everyone. And it goes on, but basically once he is kind of liberated from his the limitations that have been artificially placed on him, and then he realizes that and so Harrison breaks through this, and he realizes that he can have one chance to reach the public through a broadcast, and he does this incredible broadcast, and he hopes that maybe he affected people's lives, but maybe they forgot a minute later after the broadcast was over. And then they say, well, you can come back to work in the government if you go on the talk show that Howie Mandel is the Jay Leno character, and so he goes on the thing, and as he's there to basically say it was a prank, he says that he basically commits suicide. He pulls out a gun and kills himself. Oh. And that's his way of trying to make a gesture, to make a difference in the world, to wake people up. And it wasn't hard at all, because I don't think I really understood what that meant at that time. So it would have been harder if I filmed it later in my life, after those kinds of experiences had visited me and our family. And so, but at the time, to me, it was the idea of what we were doing was really cool, and I liked that we were putting out that cool idea. And it hadn't internalized emotionally. But anyway, we'll finish on that light note. Everyone, check the Twitter community.